In the vast expanse of cinema history, few films have echoed across generations with the thunderous resonance of Star Wars: A New Hope. Released in 1977, it wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural awakening. A space opera that redefined science fiction, pushed the boundaries of visual storytelling, and introduced a galaxy so vivid and imaginative that it became real in the hearts of millions. But behind the laser blasts, lightsaber duels, and iconic scores, there was a cast of remarkable actors who breathed life into this universe, many of whom are no longer with us. The magic of A New Hope wasn't only in its revolutionary effects or John Williams' unforgettable soundtrack. It was in the people. The actors who took on the weight of George Lucas's vision, delivering performances that became immortal. Each character, from wise Jedi masters to silent droids, masked bounty hunters to towering Wookiees, was imbued with personality and gravitas, thanks to the artists behind the scenes. Time, however, moves even faster than the Millennium Falcon. And as the decades have passed, several beloved actors from this legendary cast have left our world, their legacies forever preserved in celluloid and memory. Some, like Alec Guinness, brought decades of gravitas and classical training to their roles. Others, like Peter Mayhew and Kenny Baker, used their physical presence and quiet strength to create unforgettable nonverbal characters. And still others, like Jeremy Bulloch or Drewe Henley, though their screen time was brief, became icons in their own right, cherished by fans at conventions and remembered in every frame they graced. This video is a tribute. A journey not just back to a galaxy far, far away, but into the lives of the people who helped build it. It's about remembering the faces behind the masks, the voices behind the visors, and the souls behind the legends. It's about loss, yes, but also about legacy. These actors may be gone, but their impact remains indelible. We'll take a closer look at their lives, where they came from, what led them to Star Wars, and what they left behind, not just in film, but in the hearts of those who watched. There will be surprises, perhaps even tears, and hopefully, a deepened appreciation for the humans who turned fiction into myth. So, as the twin sons of Tatooine set once more, let's pause and remember the ones who made the Force real. Alec Guinness, the reluctant Jedi who gave Star Wars its soul. When Alec Guinness first stepped into the brown robes of Obi-Wan Kenobi, few could have predicted that the veteran British actor, then in his early 60s, would become the spiritual heart of one of the most influential franchises in cinematic history. To younger audiences in 1977, he was a mysterious Jedi master. But to the world of film and theater, Guinness was already a towering figure. Born in 1914 in London, Alec Guinness had spent decades honing his craft on stage and screen. He was the epitome of classical British acting, disciplined, versatile, and deeply respected. By the time George Lucas approached him for Star Wars, he had already won an Academy Award for The Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957, and was a familiar face in prestige films. At first, he was skeptical of Star Wars. In fact, Guinness famously found the dialogue clunky and the story strange. But he saw potential in the morality tale buried beneath the space battles and robots. He agreed to the role, bringing a sense of gravitas and mysticism that grounded the film in something timeless. His performance, as Obi-Wan, gave Star Wars its soul. Calm, wise, and quietly powerful, he was the perfect mentor figure, a bridge between old mythology and new cinematic adventure. And although he only appeared in full form in the first film, his influence lingered throughout the entire saga. Fans revered him. And yet, Guinness remained conflicted. He often expressed frustration over being recognized solely for Star Wars, rather than his lifetime of work. Alec Guinness passed away on August 5, 2000, at the age of 86. To the very end, he remained a man of dignity and introspection. While he may have had mixed feelings about the phenomenon he helped ignite, there's no question, without him, the Force would never have felt as real, as ancient, or as sacred. Alec Guinness didn't just play Obi-Wan Kenobi, he was Obi-Wan. A beacon of wisdom in a galaxy of chaos. And through every generation, his spirit continues to whisper, "The Force will be with you, always." Peter Cushing, the gentleman of horror who became the face of imperial terror. In a galaxy filled with tyrants, monsters, and masked villains, few characters exuded icy command with such effortless menace as Grand Moff Tarkin. And behind that chilling presence stood Peter Cushing, a man known in real life for his gentle manners, quiet wit, and a career rooted not in evil, but in elegance and horror. Born in 1913 in Surrey, England, Peter Cushing was already a legend in British cinema before Star Wars came calling. He was the crown jewel of Hammer Films, where he reigned supreme in horror classics like Dracula and Frankenstein, often starring opposite his close friend Christopher Lee. But while he portrayed bloodthirsty scientists and vampire hunters on screen, Cushing was famously warm, humble, and deeply professional off-screen. His piercing eyes and commanding voice made him a natural fit for authority figures, and George Lucas took full advantage. In A New Hope, Cushing brought Grand Moff Tarkin to life with chilling precision. As the cold architect of the Death Star's terror, he stood toe-to-toe with Darth Vader, not with brute force, but with pure authority. Ironically, he played the villain with so much grace that audiences couldn't help but be captivated. There's even a bit of endearing trivia. Cushing found the Imperial boots too uncomfortable, so most of his scenes were shot with him wearing slippers beneath the costume, hidden by carefully framed camera angles. Behind the scenes, however, Cushing was a man carrying quiet grief. His beloved wife, Helen, had passed away in 1971, and he never truly recovered from the loss. He poured himself into his work, perhaps as a way to cope, always with a touch of melancholy in his smile. Peter Cushing died on August 11, 1994, at the age of 81. He left behind not just a legacy of villains, but of integrity and devotion to craft. His Grand Moff Tarkin remains one of Star Wars' most memorable human antagonists, a testament to how true menace doesn't shout, but whispers with conviction. Peter Mayhew, the gentle giant who gave Chewbacca his heart. In a saga dominated by lightsabers and starfighters, one character stood out without ever uttering a single word in English, a towering, shaggy Wookiee whose growls and roars conveyed more loyalty, emotion, and humor than most humans could with a full script. That character was Chewbacca, and the man behind the fur was Peter Mayhew, a hospital orderly turned cinematic legend. Standing at an astounding 7 feet 3 inches tall, Peter Mayhew was working in a London hospital when fate knocked on his door. George Lucas, in search of someone physically imposing yet emotionally expressive, cast Mayhew as Chewbacca almost instantly after meeting him. And from that moment, a star was born, not just in a galaxy far, far away, but here on Earth. Mayhew wasn't simply a man in a suit. He was Chewbacca. His body language, gestures, and timing gave the Wookiee his soul. Whether it was an indignant shrug, a protective growl, or a playful glance, Mayhew communicated volumes beneath layers of heat-trapping fur and latex. He brought tenderness and humor to a character who might have been nothing more than a sidekick. And over time, Chewbacca became a symbol of loyalty, thanks entirely to the man who embodied him. Off-screen, Mayhew was beloved by fans. He spent decades attending conventions, charity events, and Star Wars celebrations, always with warmth and gratitude. Despite struggling with mobility issues later in life due to his extraordinary height and health conditions, he continued to engage with the fanbase that adored him. Peter Mayhew passed away on April 30, 2019, at the age of 74. His final appearances as Chewbacca in the new trilogy marked a poignant passing of the torch, but to many, there will never be another like him. He turned a roaring creature into a symbol of friendship. A warrior with a heart. A legend with a laugh. Peter Mayhew didn't just wear the suit, he gave Chewbacca his humanity. Kenny Baker, the man inside the droid who made R2-D2 feel alive. Among the stars of Star Wars, few characters are as universally loved as R2-D2, the spunky astromech droid who beeped, buzzed, and saved the galaxy more times than anyone could count. He didn't speak a word, had no facial expressions, and stood barely over 3 feet tall. Yet somehow, he had more personality than most characters in the saga. That spark of life came from Kenny Baker, the man inside the dome. Born in Birmingham, England, In 1934, Kenny Baker was just 3 feet 8 inches tall due to a form of dwarfism. He began his career in show business through variety acts and circus troupes, where his talent for mime, timing, and movement stood out. When George Lucas began casting for Star Wars, he needed someone small enough to fit inside the R2-D2 shell, but more importantly, someone who could perform from inside it. Baker was the perfect choice. Operating R2-D2 wasn't just about sitting in a can. Inside that cramped dark metal shell, where oxygen and space were limited, Baker had to react to cues, move in sync with the story, and give the droid a presence that felt real. He did so brilliantly, infusing R2-D2 with spunk, sass, and an oddly human sense of bravery. Over the years, Baker reprised his role in the original and prequel trilogies, earning a permanent place in the hearts of fans. Off-screen, he was cheerful and approachable, always grateful for the life Star Wars had given him. He toured conventions, shared stories, and remained proud of his legacy, even as newer technologies eventually replaced the need for a physical actor inside the droid. Kenny Baker passed away on August 13, 2016, at the age of 81. For many, he was more than a performer, he was a pioneer. His work proved that you didn't need height or a speaking role to become a giant in cinema. R2-D2 may have been a machine, but it was Kenny Baker who gave it a soul. Jeremy Bulloch, the man behind the mask who made Boba Fett a legend. Before he had a single line of dialogue, before his mysterious past was expanded in sequels and spin-offs, Boba Fett captivated audiences with a single glance. Clad in battered Mandalorian armor, he exuded danger, silence, and cool. And though his screen time in A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back was limited, the character became a cult phenomenon. That quiet menace? That signature walk, that poised stance? It all came from one man, Jeremy Bulloch. Born in 1945 in Market Harborough, England, Jeremy Bulloch began acting as a teenager. He appeared in British television and film throughout the 60s and 70s, but it was in 1978 that fate intervened. His half-brother, working in the Star Wars casting department, recommended him for a small role requiring someone with presence, discipline, and the ability to act entirely through body language. That role was Boba Fett. With the armor on, Bulloch became something magnetic. He didn't speak, but his movements spoke volumes. He carried the character with restraint and danger, turning a bounty hunter with just a few scenes into a pop culture icon. Fans were obsessed. The character's mystery only deepened his legend, and Bulloch, always gracious and slightly amused, embraced it wholeheartedly. Beyond the helmet, Bulloch was beloved by the Star Wars community. A fixture at fan conventions, he was known for his warmth, patience, and deep appreciation for those who adored the galaxy far, far away. He also held small roles in other Star Wars films, including a brief unmasked cameo in Revenge of the Sith. Jeremy Bulloch passed away on December 17, 2020, at the age of 75. For many fans, his Boba Fett remains the definitive version, a silent enforcer cloaked in myth. He turned minimal screen time into maximum impact, all through movement, posture, and presence. Jeremy Bulloch didn't just wear the armor. He defined it. Drewe Henley, the forgotten rebel who gave Red Leader his last command. In the chaos of the final battle over the Death Star, amidst laser fire and desperate calls over intercoms, one voice stood out, steady, commanding, and tragically faded. "This is Red Leader. I'm going in." That voice belonged to Drewe Henley, the British actor who portrayed Garvin Dryce, also known as Red Leader. Though his screen time in A New Hope was brief, his presence helped anchor one of the most iconic sequences in science fiction cinema. Born in 1940 in Leicestershire, England, Henley had a promising acting career in the 1960s and early 70s, appearing in films like The Wings of the Dove and Battle of Britain. But behind the scenes, he struggled with bipolar disorder, a condition that led him to retire from acting shortly after filming Star Wars. In fact, A New Hope would be one of his final on-screen roles. As Red Leader, Henley gave the rebel assault on the Death Star a gritty realism. His performance filmed in a cockpit set with only flashing lights and radio chatter, carried the weight of a seasoned pilot facing impossible odds. With just a handful of lines, he embodied courage, tension, and sacrifice. His death in the trench run, while tragic, served as a turning point in the battle and added gravity to the fight for freedom. After leaving the industry, Henley lived a quiet life running a bed and breakfast in Devon with his wife, actress Felicity Kendall. He remained largely outside the spotlight, unaware for many years of the cult following his character had gained. When fans eventually sought him out at conventions, he was surprised, but touched, by the legacy of his small yet memorable role. Drewe Henley passed away on February 14, 2016, at the age of 75. Though he only flew once in that galaxy far, far away, his call sign and calm demeanor remain etched in Star Wars lore. He was Red Leader, and he made his last run count. As the stars fade and the final credits roll, we're left with more than just the memory of a great film. We're left with the quiet echoes of those who shaped it, who carried it, and who, through their art, gave it life. Star Wars: A New Hope wasn't just a breakthrough in storytelling or technology. It was a triumph of humanity. And it was made unforgettable by the very people we've remembered today. Alec Guinness brought the soul. Peter Cushing brought the command. Peter Mayhew gave a towering beast a heart. Kenny Baker, from within a cramped metal shell, gave us laughter and loyalty. Jeremy Bulloch made myth from mystery. And Drewe Henley, in just a few moments, captured the bravery of sacrifice. Each of them stepped into a galaxy far, far away, but their journeys, in many ways, were deeply human. Full of passion, struggle, humor, and the enduring desire to connect. Time is ruthless. It moves forward, indifferent to icons and legends. But memory pushes back. It keeps their stories alive in every rewatch, every fan convention, every whispered line quoted from a favorite scene. And it's through that memory that these actors continue to live. Not just as characters on a screen, but as people, flawed, brilliant, sometimes conflicted, but always, undeniably, part of something bigger than themselves. In an era where franchises evolve and new faces take up old mantles, it's important to pause and look back. To honor the ones who helped build the foundation. A New Hope was the beginning, not only of a saga, but of a cinematic myth that would span decades, cultures, and generations. And the men behind the robes, the masks, the growls and beeps, they were its first storytellers. So the next time you hear the hum of a lightsaber or the cheerful beep of R2-D2, remember, behind those sounds were real people, real lives, real legacies. And somewhere, in a galaxy far, far away, they're still fighting the good fight.